So, today on the podcast, guys, we're talking all things homeschooling. This is one for the parents. As you can see, I have a very beautiful guest here, and I'm going to introduce her in a few moments. I'm just going to give her a chance to ground herself and get used to the process. But yeah, this for my final podcast is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to give something to the parents. I've had a few parents contact me and say, Lee, would you ever do something on homeschooling and the mental health of children? And I've did the best I can. All right. So the school to prison pipeline, I think it's been spoken about extensively, and it describes the path or journey from being excluded from school to going to prison. It does tend to focus on boys, but for those at the back and for those people that are not aware of what it is, I'm just going to quickly break it down. So it's the idea that young people from disadvantaged backgrounds are more likely to go to jail in the first instance. So let's just be very clear about that. So students at lower rated schools, for example, are 11% more likely to go to jail than someone, for example, that went to a better school. All right. So school exclusion contributes to the criminal exploitation of children. So obviously, if these children are not at school and they're out and about on the streets, for example, they're a lot easier to groom. All right. Multiple school exclusions are linked with earlier conviction. So if you've been excluded a few times, you're more likely to be convicted earlier. Prisoners with history of abuse, I'll say it again. So prisoners with history of abuse, exclusion from school, or being in care are more likely to be reconvicted. So I've spoken in the last podcast about prison, about this revolving door of people just continuously returning to prison. So 47% of people entering prison have no prior qualifications, which is quite shocking, if you ask me. And 42% of all prisoners were expelled or excluded permanently from school. So 42%. So when we're talking about a school to prison pipeline, I think it's quite clear. Now, they tend to, when they exclude kids from school, where I'm from anyway, they tend to send them to pupil referral units or PRUs. And to me, all they need to do is put bars and give the teachers keys, because they are basically young offenders institutions. I'm not sure many kids get a good education and they end up being worse in terms of behavior. Um, so we hear a lot about county lines. So, these young children being exploited and sent to, different parts of the country to sell drugs. But in 2019, the National Crime Agency found that 100% of children involved in county lines had been excluded from school. So it is very clear. So these are quite some recent figures. So the autumn term of 2023 to 24, 4,200 children were excluded from schools in England. 4,200 children. That is 4,200 too many. I personally believe it's time to put a hole in this pipeline. This one-size-fits-all approach to education has never worked. It didn't work when we was at school. I don't see much has changed. I'm seeing more and more kids with trauma being punished. But why is it happening? More importantly, we need to understand why. So I've spoken a lot about parentification. So if you haven't seen that, go back to the one with Kalechi and the one I did after. But adultification. So that is a racial bias, right? That happens when children from minority groups are treated as older than they are. This often leads to discrimination. And in more serious cases, it can involve the overlooking of these children's legal rights. So I don't know how many of you remember Child Q. So we're going back now to COVID times, December 2020, when a 15-year-old girl was subjected at her school to a very invasive strip search. That still burns me. 2 female police officers while teachers waited outside the door. So I hope them teachers are no longer teachers. I hope them police officers are no longer police officers. And I hope there's some money in some bank accounts, because that is absolutely shocking. All right. So what are the causes of this adultification? Systemic racism, which until the system brocks and pops down, there's not really a lot we can do about that. Systemic racism destroys mental health. And more importantly, the bias held by these people and these institutions who have power over children. So not just teachers, but we are speaking about the school thing, but think social workers who often have some really interesting views and often not a lot of cultural training. And these people write reports that get people's children taken away. So it has real connotations. So the police and family court as well. So people with unconscious maybe biases, but I don't believe they are unconscious. But how does it manifest? So I'm going to get ready to bring Fee in just a moment. But black children, and especially girls, actually, are seen as more mature. I know that from my own experience of being a black girl, many times being in primary school and being taken out of my class as maybe a 9-year-old to go and deal with my sister, who's 4 years younger than me. But that not happening with any of my white peers who had, siblings in the school. It's like, you come and deal with her. I'm at school, leave me alone. But we're seen as more self-sufficient and inherently less innocent, and that's got the real connotations there. So that's harmful with mental health and interactions with the police. Black students on the whole, so that's black boys and girls, are 3 times more likely to be excluded or isolated from their peers. So you see it a lot. They're taken out of the class and put maybe into an older year group or a younger year group. And I think it's actually quite cruel. Black children in the UK are more likely to be excluded from school than white children. They have to deal with microaggressions. So, things like being told to cut their hair, or, maybe it's in the way of the board, your hairstyle. But this is the real thing. They're often punished for subjective judgments of behaviors. So, having an attitude or being disobedient, or maybe body language. And I do tend to think, I don't know if it's because we eat yam and banana, but our children tend to be biologically different. So, that happens a lot. So because we look bigger than our age, we're treated older than our age. And that needs to stop. That needs to be really looked at, because there are biological differences as well. But a lot of these times, these judgments of these behaviors, are simply just age reflected behaviors. They're just behaving like children. So for me, I've kind of made that as brief as I can, because it is very extensive. But the bigger problem is that girls are often overlooked on the whole, right? They're more likely to be parentified as well as adultified, okay? And they do county lines. So I've got here this book, and this is one of my neighbours here, Nikila Whitaker. And Nikila's been very open about her story from exclusion to county lines. And I bought this book, very good book. If I had all the time in the world, I would bring Nikila on to talk about it, because she now works with young people and is part of the solution. But for those of you that think that girls don't do county lines, they do. In 2021 to 22, Black Caribbean girls were excluded from school at double the rate of white British girls. There's something very wrong going on there. And I've said it before on the neurodiversity, and this is so big. Girls are less likely to be diagnosed with behavioral conditions such as ADHD. So boys, average age of diagnosis, 7 years old. Girls, average age of diagnosis, 36 to 38 years old. So look at this. This is a real problem. So if these girls are being excluded from schools for things like talking a lot, which ADHD shows up, or, spacing out, or not being able to stick to a schedule, potentially having a meltdown and it being seen as bad behavior. So these girls are not being diagnosed and they're being put out of school. Black girls are 2.7 times more likely to be subject of the most invasive strip searches. But what I found more astounding, and me and Fee were just speaking about it off air, but studies indicate that a large percentage of teachers have not received or do not remember any formal education on anti-racism. And I think this problem with black girls being adultified is the prelude to this trope of this strong black woman, which we know is destroying black women's mental health. So black women are more likely to have a common mental health problem, 29% compared to 21% of British white women and 16% of non-British white women. Like, it's clear. Women have a problem, black women, we suffer more. But I really have been considering, so with the boys, we're seeing this school to prison pipeline, but are we starting to see a school to mental health pipeline for girls? Are we really? And the question I would ask, I'm not a parent, so I'm going to be quite open with that. That's why I brought someone on that is a parent to kind of balance it out. But I would ask, if the system is failing our children, why are we giving the system access to our children in the first place, when we can homeschool our children and see our children thrive? So again, I'll ask you, if the system is failing our children, why are we giving the system access to our children in the first place? All right? So with all that aside, this is the fun part for me, bringing on this wonderful guest. This is one of my most supportive friends as well. She's so positive, and she's an Aries. But Fee, please introduce yourself. I can't even introduce you. I need you to introduce yourself.
Hello, hello. Hi, I am Fifi, a mother of three lovely individuals. I also run my lovely business, De-Stress Body,
This is
helping
nice.
individuals helping individuals on their journey to self-care. Self-care is a big thing. But that's another story for another day. But you can find me at De-Stress Body on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, go follow and let's do it.
She's very humble, guys. She's a whole brand. Like she had on another jumper before, and she's just vibes. You know, like when you have friends that are just vibes. The vibes come through the phone. You know, she's been so supportive. It's been the Aries crew for me that have got me through the last few months. But this woman, this wonderful woman, is full of so much positivity. And you know, she has three wonderful children that all look exactly like her, and are just
Yay.
wonderful, wonderful, spirited, beautiful children. But you know, Fee, I really wanted to bring you on to help me go through these subjects because obviously I'm not a parent, but I've you know, had family members that have gone through this school exclusions and loads of issues with school, and then being excluded from school, and then being sent to Peru's, and then it being hard to get back into mainstream school. But you did something very different. You actually, your oldest child, you actually took her out of school, and she's now currently being homeschooled. So I'm just going to ask, how did the school deal with your concerns about your child's education in the first instance? And were they supportive of your decision?
They wasn't supportive and they weren't supportive and they were. They weren't and they was, if that makes sense. They didn't
Yeah.
give me a hassle and I didn't have a hassle getting her out of the school because I did my research. I went onto the Gov. Website and on there it literally tells you how to deregister your child. So I copied and pasted a couple of few sentences and I put it in a email format and I sent it out I sent it to the school. That took her out. At that time, which I took her out, we're talking about what, almost 4 or 5 years ago. It was really simple. You could do that. But since COVID, where half fun fact, majority of the schools are actually empty because a
Mhm.
lot of parents did not actually send their kids back into school
Yeah.
post COVID.
Yeah.
So there's spaces in schools that you could even get into prior 5 to 6 years ago. There's spaces there. Yeah, so that's how I did it. They weren't supported. Prior to that, actually, prior to taking her out, we've been having issues with the school that she was attending anyway. There was
Yeah.
real issues there. Every so often she'll get ill and it was a continued thing. And so he was already fucking head regarding that. And an issue took place, which I thought was very disturbing, the issue. Um, as everybody knows, whether you're a mom or not, even if you're a auntie, everybody, when you ask the child, what did you do today? Straight after school or just in general, half the time they can't remember. My daughter came home one day and she literally came home in tears telling me that somebody ripped her work. Her teacher ripped her work. She wrote something and instead of her rewriting it, she ripped it because it wasn't done properly. And to me, that's trauma
That is
because
trauma.
that is trauma because 9 out of 10 times when she comes home to school, she can't even tell me what she did. So, and that if a child can't tell
Yeah.
you what they had a good day, but the fact that you've done something that's imprinted in my child and made my child upset. I
Yeah.
took it to the school and they said, "Oh, but no." No." They basically told me that my daughter's emotional. And I said, "Yes, I know she's emotional, and I know when she's exaggerating, but this is not an emotional situation, and she's not exaggerating in this sense. So, what we're going to do about it?" So after that, I've had ups and downs about school, and eventually, post COVID, one day there was, I don't know if anybody is aware, but at the time there was a incident with her head teacher, deputy head at the school, inappropriate incident. So that was just after all of that, that was like literally that I said, "Yep, I'm taking her out," because
This is not a safe environment, and you're actually inflicting trauma on my child.
literally, literally that. And I took her out, and that's where we started. It was a big decision, but I had to do it for the well-being of my child.
And this is the thing here because like I've said to you off camera, like I've seen a lot of incidences, where young black girls have gone through things, maybe racism. I've seen attacks, and people come out, and the black people come out in mass, and they're all talking. And I remember this one particular scene. I think this young black girl had been attacked by some white girls, and everyone went to this protest, right? And this one woman stood up, and she was saying, this is terrible what's happening to our kids. We need to start homeschooling our kids. Now, I promise you, all the people that were, were cheering before, they all went silent, and they wanted this woman out of the way. That nobody wanted to entertain the idea of homeschooling their kids. It was just like, next. So there are that. So I'm going to say, well done to you for bucking that trend and actually having the balls to actually take your child out of school. But how did you go about setting it all up, and what were the challenges in doing so?
Well, obviously, it was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, because like everything else you're new to, you have to find your way.
Yeah.
The first thing I did, I actually jumped on Facebook. There's loads of homeschooling platforms on that group on Facebook. I went on there, started speaking to a couple of people, getting doing my research, getting a feel of what the homeschooling community is like, and it's absolutely brilliant. I'm not saying that because I am a homeschooler. Generally, it's there. It's actually bigger than what people actually realize. So I done that. I found a couple of tutors on there, and yeah, don't get me wrong, we've gone through quite a lot of teachers,
Hmm.
but I think it's part of the journey. So you find somebody that's suited for your child and your child's needs.
Yeah.
Now, the teachers that have come, it's not like they've not been suited. They're number one. You've had some people that are in the homeschooling, some teachers that are in the homeschooling community, but they
Hmm.
get called into the mainstream, they'll drop homeschool and go to mainstream. I came across a lot of individuals like that, but get alone. That's because I didn't do my research properly. So if
Yeah.
you're stepping into that, I say do your research. But once I found my research, I joined the group. I had a very um funny enough, her father's friend put me onto called a group of teachers who I'm still working with today. They've been brilliant. They put me onto an art teacher and put me on WhatsApp group, literally, and I found my way via that. But even in the homeschool community, it's so big. You've got group sessions that they do in your local areas. They do meetup. They have they do everything. They even do like, say for instance, you see like activities like swimming,
Yeah.
gymnastics, stuff like that. You do after school. If you're homeschool, there is you can still do that, but during the times that the normal kids go to school. So there's no way.
Okay, so they are getting that social aspect, because I
Yeah,
think
they
that
are
that
getting
would be a
social
concern.
aspect.
Yeah.
They get to meet up with a lot. They get to do their sport days. It's everything normal. They can get everything they get in school, but it's just you as a parent guiding it and working with individual.
And and
But
you and you mentioned, picking teachers and stuff, and I did a little bit of research on this. So I went on the Gov website, and I was quite surprised to find out that you can homeschool your child part-time or full-time, because the only thing that the law requires is that children over the age of 5 are educated full-time. So you can do part-time or full-time, but the school does not have to agree to it. So there are some issues with that. But
yes, yes, that's true.
there
Laws
are
have changed.
yeah, there are some issues with that. But you mentioned, being able to pick and choose teachers, but you also don't have to follow the national curriculum. Is that correct?
No, you don't. Like myself, because you don't have to follow the national curriculum. You don't even have to follow any curriculum, to be fair. Because let's be real. We're talking about learning. We can learn. Just looking out the window, you can learn something.
Yeah.
Like, let's break it down. You don't have to be confined to a classroom. You don't have to be confined to just looking at a laptop. You can learn from nature. You can learn from just mingling. You can just learn by having a conversation. So
Hmm.
the concept of you have to go to school to learn is just beyond me.
It's outdated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so outdated and it's so beyond me. It's not something like I don't believe it's I don't feel like it's a thing. Like, let it go. So learning, first of all, you have to change the way you want. Find out what your child wants to do. Because I think that's the key.
Yeah.
You're say, like my daughter, she wanted to go into media. So I said to her, okay, what I'm going to do because we're not following no curriculum. We do the course, maths, science, English. Those are her core subjects. And the reason why I'm doing that was, although she's homeschooled, she decided to go into corporate world or to
Yeah.
go back into education. She's got the basics,
Yeah.
but that's just my concept. So if she does GCSEs and that, then that's her foundation to go into whatever else she wants to go into. And she does finance and my type. So that's her curriculum. I don't feel like she needs to do any more than that.
Yeah. And I've met her. She's an extremely bright child. Like, sometimes she says words and I'm actually slightly Googling it. What does that mean? Like, allow me, man.
So the curriculum's not, there is no curriculum base. I think you can either tailor the curriculum to what you want your child to learn or what you feel your child can learn.
Yeah, and what their strengths are and what they're actually interested in doing. Because I do think that they do tend to have too many subjects. I think there needs to be a lot more practical things, like, more trades. People can do trades and stuff. I think this focus on just overwhelming academia. Like, I don't know, I have about 13 GCSEs. I don't need 8 of them. This focus on this conventional education.
Conventional education is so outdated. Like, when we entered the homeschooling community, it was a rush. Like, everybody's so warm and welcoming, for starters. The kids are completely different to school kids. They are more relaxed. They go with the flow. If you want to wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you do that. Now, people are going to be like, oh, you let your child wake up at 2? Yes, because indirectly, you waking up your child at 7 to go to somewhere they already hate is a hindrance.
This trauma, I still haven't got over my school days. It's trauma, let's be real.
It's a big trauma. So I'd rather have it like that, knowing that her brain she's mentally and physically rested, so she can take on whatever she has to face for the day.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just a different thinker, and I just work according to how she vibrates as the human being that she is.
You're a free thinker, V. That's what you
Yeah,
are.
I am.
You're a free thinker. But, so you've spoken there about, the challenges that you had in the beginning, but how did your child adapt and what were the challenges for her and how did you resolve them?
Oh, so there's that as the best way we handle the challenges, because I don't make nothing bigger than what it is. So because I don't do that, in return, she just worked with me. And in every step, I explained to her, okay, so this teacher's not going to turn up no more. So we're going to try to. I always had a conversation with her. You want to go back to school or do you want to have a go at this again? Where it takes us. There was always conversations with the teachers, so we know where we're at. And yeah, she was not even the biggest. She was down with it. She was like, I don't want to do school. I will figure this out. We'll figure this out and we get to where we need to get. But the biggest hindrance was family, believe it or not, because obviously I'm the first in the whole of this generation, in the whole bloodline that I took from the present till now that has done this. And that person was like, oh, how's she going to learn? What are you going to do? Fast forward to now, everybody's like, oh, okay, we see what you're doing. We see what you're doing. Well, at first, when it first started, it was a lot to comprehend. Other individuals that's never experienced it. It was a lot for them to take and be like, you're homeschooling your child. How's she gonna socialize? How you gonna have time to teach her and go work?
Well, I think sometimes they do that to make themselves feel better about, about the fact that they probably never would do it. Because I think that this is a very viable solution to what's going on in the education system. But, so many parents do not even consider it. It's like, during COVID, they were depressed and just wanted to get their kids back to school. I just wonder if people actually even like their kids, some of them, because it's like, what's going on?
That's a very valid point. As I said, and I've said in many, many, many breaths, a lot of people like the idea of children. Brilliant. You have a mini me, you dress them up, they're cute, whether you got a boy or a girl, they're cute, they're just a cute version of yourself. And it's nice when you want a child, but I think everybody forgets there's more to it than just wanting a child. And I'm not speaking like I'm the best mum in the world. Don't get me wrong. I have my own, issues as a mother. Yeah. But I think people don't think of some people have children to love, some people have children to be loved. And as valid as those being concerned, I don't take that away from nobody. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
There is a lot more to it than that. You have to, first of all, like what you produce. And I say that with Jez, you have to like what you produce. Some people have resentment, have hate towards their child,
Yeah.
and the way they express themselves to their child, the way that it shows up in one way or the other. Even if you try to disguise it, it will show up. And you're right, a lot of people don't like their child. They don't. And it's not like, oh, I hate you. It's just sometimes your child comes in a form, shows you parts of yourself that you don't like.
Yeah.
So,
And you see it all the time. And those harsh words that sometimes, you're out and about and you hear the way people speak to their kids. And I'm like, I just want to stop them sometimes and shake them and be like, stop doing this. Because these are these are going to become the voice that your child hears in its head long into adulthood. So the things that you tell children. So yeah, I know we could have a whole conversation about that. But how is your child doing now? And would you say you made the right decision?
yes, I have. And now, just to bring us out there, I have, because I now have one that I put my middle child in school and my oldest is homeschooled. So my current journey is experiencing both. Now back to the older one, I wouldn't have it any other way. For her, as an individual that she is, homeschooling works perfectly well for her.
Yeah.
It works for her. She gets a one-to-one. She gets to socialize. Because she gets to, she's exposed to so much like that if she was in school, it wouldn't be like that.
Yep.
Because it's just not the environment. And to be honest, if she wasn't in school, she probably would have been excluded by now. As much as you see her, as fine as she is, she would have been excluded. She would have been, even now, or she probably would have been. Something would have happened.
Yeah, she wouldn't have thrived in that particular environment because, like I says, there is no one size fits all to education.
No, and we have to get rid of that concept that all kids learn the same. They do not. They do not. What works for John ain't gonna work for Paul.
Yeah.
End of.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the biggest thing. And being in a Black community, let me just say this as a homeschooling mother in a Black community, there is a big Black homeschooling community that welcomes you. So if you ever think about testing the waters with homeschooling, there is a community out there, a vast community. There's WhatsApp groups that can help you. There's meetup groups. There's teachers that are for the homeschooling community alone that just work with homeschool kids and get the job done.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with them right now, and it is absolutely brilliant what they do. So if people are thinking about it, considering it, it's not hard. It's not something that you have to do yourself. You don't have to teach your child. Homeschooling, you have to sit down with your child and teach your child yourself. It doesn't mean, and it doesn't have to be expensive. I think that's another thing that people have issue with.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I started, it was very expensive because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was looking for. I just wanted to achieve. I just wanted to prove everybody I could do this, and this is the right thing for me.
Yeah.
I have to move away from that mindset and be like, okay, what's going to work? And connecting with other parents in homeschooling, know how they budget, how they do things, and how you can get certain things for free because your homeschool it worked out. I'm now spending, perfect example, her maths and English, I'm paying just over £80 per month. To me, it's worth it because she's thriving.
Yeah.
She's doing her GCSEs.
Yeah.
And the science, again, just over £70 a month. But it worked. It worked for me. And they do so much as homeschooling tutors.
Yeah.
And it's not like they just teach them. From summer, at the end of term, they will tell you they'll have sports day, they'll have awards that they give them, incentives. So I like that, but there's no pressure. And they work with your child on how that child knows, not you have to learn this way. That's the biggest thing. So,
yeah.
I'm not thinking they're probably thinking, because you're doing it, it's easier.
No, but it's
It's
like
a,
it's like anything that's worth doing. It's difficult in the beginning, but if it's worth doing, then it will pay off. So it sounds like in your oldest child's case that it definitely is the right decision. So we've kind of touched on it a minute ago, but looking at the challenges that Black children especially face, why are more parents not homeschooling their children, Fee?
because they're scared. Let's, a lot of people, I'll be honest, a lot of where is that, how can I say it? We've been, I don't want to use the word, it's a dominoes effect. That's the best way to put it. Where from, remember, there's generation before us got taught to shut up and put up in the nicest way. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Shut up and put up. They in turn taught us to shut up and put up.
yep,
Hence why we went through certain things in school. But we've now we're now the new adult, and we've learned certain things and
yep,
learned boundaries and certain things in place. We've now said, no, we're not doing that. So you have to want better for your, I think Black people are just stuck in that, in that,
yeah,
in that, that space.
yeah,
A lot of them don't look at that. They're stuck in that space, shut up and put up.
yeah,
Why we're aware that the system built is not for us, it's against. And certain parents will overlook that thing. I'll give you an example. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's easier to give you, I don't know if I do that. It's easier for you to give your child something to look after than for you to look after your
yeah.
own.
And that's the way I see it. And I'm thinking, is it me? Is it because I'm a non-parent? Am I crazy? Because to me, I see things exactly as the way you see it. Because you have a choice in this. You don't. This is one system, one racist system that you actually don't need to put your children through. You actually have a choice here. I mean, we can't do anything in society, but we can do something about the education. And I tend to find that, you know, as a culture, we're not homogenous, so there's different aspects of the culture, but we tend to talk about things a lot. We talk about the problem over and over and over. We're gonna keep talking about this problem because it's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. But the solutions is where we often fall short. And when people like suggest things, people are quick to shoot it down. But if we keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's the definition of madness.
Really madness. They don't know where to swing it. Somebody once said to me, why would you home, when we first started this journey, like, why would you homeschool her? I said to the person, just out of curiosity, me and you went to school in England. What did you get out of it? When you left school, apart from friendship and learning how to deal with, not just learning how to socialize with boys and girls, what else did you get out of it? You know, exactly.
What did you get out of it?
And
That's what I'm saying. Nothing.
what did you get out of it? And the fact is, you didn't get nothing out of it. What makes you think that you're now an adult, you knew that you didn't get nothing as a child, you're not an adult. What makes you think that your offspring are going to get something out of it? The same system that hasn't changed
Hmm.
since you was in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to have that way of thinking. A lot of us, as I say, will give this. We're happy for our child to dress up, and you're happy to put the latest Jordan on your child.
Yeah, we
Make
just work with the system, and it's really weird to me because we don't have to. We complain about a system that is unfair to us, but yet, like you say, we give our children over to that system, and it's like these are your
and
children,
then
the most
complain
precious things that you'll ever have. Please,
we complain when the system treats our children how
yeah,
exactly set up our children. Because let's
yeah.
be honest,
So the boys are going to prison, the girls are suffering from mental health. Why are we doing this to our children?
and this is and as much as the girls are stuff, and you said about to me, it's a cross. It's a cross.
Yeah,
But the girls are also
yeah,
going to prison.
yeah. The girls are also going to prison, and the men are also having mental health.
Yeah.
But just because I'm trying to highlight particularly the issues of girls, but you're absolutely right. It's going both ways. It's definitely going both ways because the mental health of Black males are definitely affected as well, and women are going to prison, so we know this too.
Yes,
So
they are definitely going. And I just feel like as Black people, you're right. We talk a lot. As Black people, we talk too much, and we often talk about solutions. That's why 9 out of 10 times it frustrates me because we see what's going on with our children. It's blatantly in our eyes.
mhm.
I mean, the girl over COVID that got searched, no word of a lie, could never
Mhm.
be my picnic. That could have.
Yeah, girl Q. Hmm.
Yeah, go to, that could not be my child, because how would you as a parent and mother, okay, just say parent, sit there and allow something? No, 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 you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. You're not doing that.
The call would have been shut down.
That was, it would have been shut down, because I don't believe that was so inappropriate in so many ways and so many levels. Like, but again, you've got cases like that. You've got cases, the same case of girl, is it in countries? I think it was up in country somewhere, where they beat up the little black boy, little black girl, a bunch of white kids. You've got, you even see it with the way the way shopkeepers treat your kids when they walk in there. You just see it all across the board. Why are we subjecting our children to such environment?
Because that's a good point that you kind of raised there. So, a lot of, you've seen it on Insta a lot of these times when these black kids are being assaulted by these white children and it goes viral. I'm actually just sitting here thinking, I'm wondering how many of those kids, how many of those parents sent those children back to school, because because that should be the point where you realize that this is not working for me or my child.
Exactly that. And from all of that aggression, microaggression, aggression from going to school, your child begins to hate the school system. Not that they hate the school system. That's how you get them. That's how they start to bunk.
Hmm.
That's how they start not even turning up. That's when they can't be able to get dressed in the morning, because more than becoming an educational issue, it's becoming a chore for the children.
School is boring. And unless they were paying me, I would not be going to school these days. It is so boring. That's my recollections of school. If it weren't for the friends that I met, it was just so boring.
But this is the thing. I feel like when, I mean, when we was in school, we had teachers that wanted to teach, that
Mm.
wanted us to learn, that wanted us to leave for something.
Yeah, I think that definitely I would say the teaching quality was a lot better in the
Mhm.
80s and 90s. But
Where
as fun as those teachers tried to make it, I always thought it was boring. To me, the day was long. It was just too much for a child. And I still think that now. Like, you see some of the children, because even us, I think our primary schools and that used to start at 9 o'clock, and a lot of the secondary schools used to start at that time. Now sometimes I'm out early, like 6:37, doing stuff, and you see the children, they must be half asleep. I don't even know how they're up so early making their journey to school, and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and they look half asleep.
there's kids there. That's another thing. You're okay. Perfect example. And perfect example. Lewisham. I'll use Lewisham as an area. Lewisham's run down Lewisham. So you now live in Lewisham. You then pick up your child. Take your child to go to school somewhere. Say up in St. Paul. Use St. Paul's. Um, your child has to make that journey. So your child has to leave the same time as all the corporate child. That's stress in itself, because it's
Yeah,
stressful traveling to school. And then you have to go to school and put up with the stress for 6 hours and put up
yeah.
with the stress of the teacher, make that stressful journey, come back home. And it's just like,
Yeah, it's kind of like how I feel about the rat race. So, like you say, this corporate world, like when I do happen to go out early and I see them, staring there on the way to the train station. And if you came at 7 o'clock every morning, you probably see the same man and the same woman doing the same journey. And I feel like that's what they're trying to program into our kids. They're programming them into becoming this corporate people that is part of this rat race. I think they should teach them how to start their own business in school. That's what they should be doing, because that's where the focus should be, and I think that's where the future is going. I think everyone should be at home. You should be working from home. You should be educated at home. You don't need to go out there.
you know what, I respect it. But unfortunately, if I'm saying it, unfortunately, the system's not built like that. The system needs work.
Yeah,
So the point of a school is to put, the point of you going to school, not just to learn, it's for you to actually learn to be, it's for you them to start getting you in line.
yeah. Learn to conform.
When yeah.
Mm.
So when you start getting the children that are like, sorry, what
Yeah,
is it? That can't get into line, they become the ones that get excluded. They become
yeah,
the problem child. They become someone that gets kicked out of lessons. They're the ones that get put on report. And sometimes, generally, your child's not naughty.
yeah. They're
You just,
non-conformist. They're raised very well at home. I don't
that
think being I think having a personality and having beliefs. I think you see children getting punished for it a lot. The same things, same qualities that would be rewarded when they're an adult, they get punished for as children. It's very strange.
It's very, very strange. And I think as Black people, we don't take the time to even, okay, perfect, to even see, we know there's things going wrong in the school system, but we don't even take time to sit down and go through what's wrong in the school
Mm-hmm.
system. The same girl that got, what's her name?
Child Q. Yeah.
Child Q. We've forgotten about her.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens. We forget. We protest for a little bit. How can this happen? And then we forget. Because I think, forgetting means that we don't have to deal with anything. We don't have to come up with any solutions. We just wait. We just wait till the next time to protest again.
That's why I call it chosen that amnesia.
Yeah.
I do.
And that's why I don't
That's what
protest, because unless we're doing something about it, I'm not going to protest for anything. What are we going to do?
We're not doing anything because at the end of the day, QP, I guarantee you, even if she didn't go back to that school, she went back.
She went back to school, and that's exactly what I'm thinking in my head. She probably went back to school the next day or the next week. And that's
At
the
some point,
problem.
because that's what, because as an example, as I said, when I homeschooled my oldest daughter, everybody's worried was like, how is she going to get, the worries that they had, not even what valid. Those are worries that you lot should have as well as your child being in the school system.
Yep.
People actually believe that the school system works and it's there to give their kids education. It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Bigger than that. It does more than that. And to be honest, I see it. I see Black kids. Like, when they're about the age of 3, 4, they've got the personality, they're vibrant, they're smart, they're quick with their answers. Check that child 10 years from now. And because it's been through such traumatizing route, they've lost all of that.
Yeah.
They've
And
lost that.
them subjective judgments on behaviours that are normally based in bias.
And that the system is just not normal. No, it doesn't work. I think us Black people need to come together, homeschool our children, or create our own school.
Yeah. Do you know what? Well, I grew up in the 80s, and I don't know. I got a friend, Shay. He's a very well-known barber now, and his dad used to run a schoolhouse. Actually, not far from where you are, just on St. John's Vale. There used to be a schoolhouse. Yeah, there used to be a schoolhouse, and I used to see the kids going in there, and I think more things like that. And I think I've said it before, like things like retired ex-teachers, Black teachers that fed up of the mainstream system, but can give a few hours of their time to teach kids in that way. I think there is a lot we can do, but we've kind of touched on it. But as a parent, what is your opinion on where the schools are going wrong? Like, what could they actually reasonably change to make it better? Obviously, you're working with this racist system, but what could they do?
Stop having schools in Black areas that are run by white individuals that don't know nothing about the culture, the creed, or
Yeah.
the dynamic of that community. You come in, you teach the kids, you get back in your Buick and you keep it moving.
Yeah, go back to Kent or somewhere, innit? Drive back to Kent. Yeah.
Or Isle of Sheppey, wherever you want to go. But that needs to stop. And and this is what grinds my gears. I go to school and they'll put the one Black person on the front desk.
Yeah.
She'll be there. She'll be the main receptionist. But everybody behind her,
Yeah.
what?
I think that's a great point. That's something I didn't even think about, how the schools should represent, the staffing in the schools should represent the communities that they're in. I never actually thought about that.
That's why you know why? I give that to Americans. As much as American is twisted, you've got Black schools that have Black teachers.
Yeah.
And it could be the most rundown school, but I would like to think at least 2 or 3 kids are going to come out of there because that teacher's giving them a drive and motivation.
Yeah, it's representation, and there's also a lack. There will be, at least that there will be an absence of racism, at least. So we could try to learn without all these microaggressions and all these other things that we have to deal with. So I think that's a great shout.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. I think they need to stop that. Stop thinking you cannot come from Kent and come into an urban place like Lewisham. Teach a child that's you don't know what's happening in that house in that morning. The child's coming to school and you just think because he's not smiling or because he's slouching, he or she's slouching, or because he or she just not in a mood to hear you, there's a
Yeah.
problem, or the child's catching out at you. You don't know,
Mhm.
you don't know that. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying as a Black person, we're all going to recognize those signs,
Yeah.
but you can relate to them. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Because we Black children are from more disadvantaged backgrounds, and we have to deal with a lot more shit than most kids going to school. So, I was a parentified child, so by the time I've got to school, mate, I've already been put to work. Like, I'm saying I don't want to chat to nobody. Are you then gonna punish me for wanting just to.
Because I'm happy and puffing because you're asking me to do too much.
Yeah. Tired.
And the reason why and the reason why I'm huffing and puffing is not even because you're asking me to do too much. I'm overwhelmed with what I had to deal with in the morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It looks the same. You can, I suppose, to some people, misbehavior, but you said that word there, overwhelmed. These children are often dealing with a lot of things and coming to school and having their behavior subjectively judged by someone who has no clue of the things that can happen in a household. That they've probably been so sheltered from this that it's not even something that they can imagine. So that is something that I didn't even think about. We've got my brain thinking about some different things. Just
Okay.
because we do this all the time when we talk, we go off on our tangents. But just to bring it back a little bit, what advice would you give to any parents thinking, just possibly thinking about homeschooling their kids?
I will say, speak to your child. See where your child's at mentally. Yeah, and if it's something, if you feel and suggest it to your child, to say,
Hmm.
I'll suggest that you try homeschool it and see how that child receives that.
Yeah,
Because homes education, when it comes to educating somebody else, is not, and especially as a parent, I think this is where we get it wrong as well. Just because it's our child doesn't mean the way that we want it to go the right way.
yeah,
And that's a hard pill to swallow. I ain't gonna lie.
yeah,
But having that conversation with your child, taking those steps to say, okay, I know you've been through A, B, and C. How do you feel about what you've been through? And would you consider homeschooling?
hmm,
And then you take it from there. That's the advice I can give you. And when you do decide to do home, if you and your and then if you get to that point, you're both on the same page. You then turn around and you say, you do your research. You go on UK tells you how to register your child.
yeah,
As I say, 5 years ago, and laws have changed. There are new laws coming into place that you need to be aware of as
yeah,
homeschooling parents.
yeah.
There is,
You got to keep up with all those things. Yeah,
yeah, because there is. So I say keep up with that by going on .uk and making sure that all the points are covered. You can find it, pretty much use their wording to be register your child.
yeah.
The only issue is the government does not run you in any way, shape, or form when it comes to homeschooling. And I
That
think
that needs
I
to
know,
be looked at. The
yeah,
money that they spend plowing into an education system that doesn't work, and when they could just give a percentage of that budget for homeschool children and just see how these children thrive. But you made a good point there. So the gov.uk thing does have a lot of good information, and I'm just gonna, just in case someone is at that stage. So Fee was giving you parents advice, and you can pick that back up in a sec. But I will forget if I don't do this. Just a few points. So you go to the school, you tell the school that you want to homeschool your child. Now, they must accept it, but like I said, they do not have to accept part-time. So if you was to say to them, all right, I want to send my child to school part-time and homeschool them part-time, they don't have to agree to that, right? There are some exceptions. If your child has a school attendance order, you must get permission from your local council. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, like I said, you don't have to follow the curriculum. So, SEN children, so that's special educational needs. If your child attends a special school, you must get local council permission. You do not need permission if they attend a mainstream school, even if they have an education and healthcare plan, EHC. So, just a few points to note, just in case anyone comes under the exceptions. But great advice for parents. To speak to your children. You know, what else? Anything else you can think of? Oh yeah, you said so far the networks. Sorry, just to remind you what you said. All of the
yeah.
networks.
The different network there's Facebook groups on yeah, there's Facebook on home medication. Great places to meet people, to find out what's going on in the home community. there is lack of homeschooling communities, and you'd be surprised how big that community is. I
Yeah.
actually love being that community because it's something that a lot of people are not aware of this. So tap
Yeah.
into that. That help.
And I can imagine a
And then,
lot of the parents in those groups have gone through similar experiences with the education system. So you're able to
yeah,
support each other as well as talk about your children.
yes, yes, it's a great support system. It's a great, especially for the parents. The kids are brilliant because they get to mingle with like-minded children, and it's a calmer, a more chilled out environment. I find
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because sometimes kids come up in school a bit high. There's nothing wrong with that. But the kids in homeschool are a bit more chilled and a bit more mellowed out because they just go with the flow, like I said earlier. But yeah, if you're safe, for instance, if you're a parent that hasn't got no support out to and want to take this step, join one of those homeschooling groups, and they will always support you. And
Mhm.
also, if you're considering it, in every borough there's a homeschooling, I call it an worker that works
Yeah.
with the council worker that specializes in home education, and they will then contact you. Some schools, some councils require yearly reports to see what your child's doing. Some don't, and but you can always liaise with that individual depending on what
See,
borough.
that's what I'm saying. You're educating me. These are not things that even came up for me when I was trying to research. So this is really, really useful information here.
Yeah, there's a department, a home education department. It's only got one member of staff that deals with it. But depending on, I say one because in my borough, there's one individual that I deal with. In other boroughs, there might be two or three, but either way, they will contact you. And some of them, and this is another thing, being part of the homeschooling group, if you say, for instance, you live in Southwark, and there's something in the home, they'll put how you can put in there what are the procedures the Southwark Council take in regard to homeschooling. Somebody from Southwark will answer that and give you like bullet point.
Yeah.
That's what the homeschooling community is. Very welcoming, very supportive, very informative, and the trips are out of this world. Like you get to go. They do homeschooling trips to National History Museum. They do homeschooling trips where you can sleep in the national. Like there's so much out there you can do. It's just having faith that you can do it as a parent.
Yeah. And like you say, everything is learning, not just what you get from books. Nature's learning. Having more free time to go out and take walks. You can learn a lot from just taking your child to the park. But I think another reason why a lot of parents probably don't consider homeschooling is because of obviously it having an effect on their own lives. So how has it impacted your life and the way that you now have to work? Because I'm assuming you
Oh,
have to be home, so you've had to change the way you work.
homeschooling. As homeschooling has been, as much as my daughter was something that I did, it's something that I did for my daughter, but I needed it to do. I needed it for myself. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because it took me to a place where it forced me to come out of the corporate world. And now I run my own business, these stress thing.
yeah, guys.
So and I'm here to see her do her work. I'm more of an overseer because she's got her cheers in place. And I'm here when my child comes home. I'm here as a present parent. And although it's hard to, not hard, sometimes it does get a bit difficult to balance too, but majority of the time it works for my household. The
Yeah,
transition, I've got one day and I thought, I'm going to work. And this was when she was at school. I was like, I'm going to work. I finish at 10 something, come home, she's in bed. I literally take
yeah,
my child to work, she's in bed. I don't see her, I don't get to
yeah,
interact, see what's up. I'm literally allowing the system to grow. I didn't ever want the system to grow my child.
yeah.
So I gave that a sacrifice. Some people say it's a sacrifice. It's something that I chose to do, and I don't regret it one bit. I don't regret it
I think it is a sacrifice, but it's the sacrifice that people should be making. You do not live to work. You work to live.
100%.
So, I think too many people have that in their mind, like, I can't do that because I've got work. No, you don't. If you're having discrimination at work, you don't have to stay there. Like, we always have choices and we can change things. We can change the way we work. And like you say, you've got your de-stress body. Listen, it's a lovely, you guys need to check it out. Check it out on Insta as well. I don't know if we can get that all in. Yeah, de-stress body. But tell the podcast a bit about that, because you're all about self-care, your brand, isn't it?
Yes. So I am de-stressed body, and I started off as a natural skincare company. I did. That's how I
Yeah.
started off. And I realized the market is so saturated with natural brands. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? With all of these brands out here, and you're all buying all these brands, you not actually know what to do with it. Steps. You laugh, what? Do you know what to do? Do you even know where to start? Do you know how to apply it? Do you know, like, I started asking questions like that, and I got onto the questions of like, oh, there's so many up. I got to the question, and it's obviously, funny enough, it came from one of your podcasts as well. I started asking myself, I was watching one of them, and I started asking myself, what is it that we do for ourselves?
Yeah.
Like, how much do we understand ourselves as women
Yeah.
and as individuals? So I said, no, I'm going to start. I rebranded De-Stress Body, and I think the name sits better with what I'm doing now, which is self-care hampers to
Yeah.
help every individual on their self-care journey. Self-care is very important because it's about you looking after yourself. You can't pour it into somebody else.
Yeah. And
You
it's
yourself.
something that I say. Without self-care, you're just gonna be burnt out. Oh, actually,
And there's not environment.
I was trying to
Like,
find the little thing that you sent me. I had it here somewhere. I'll find it by the end of the podcast. I will find it. It's here somewhere. Your little self-care, your little those little things that you sent me. I actually found the self-care one, but I know you're all about self-care. You're all about positive vibes, self-care. But I think what you've done is amazing, because I think so many people wouldn't consider changing their job even for their child. And you say it works for you, and I know it does. Your kids absolutely adore you. You literally can't keep them away from you. So whatever you're doing is kind of working for you. But yeah, it can't have been an easy journey. You kind of make it sound really easy, what you've gone
no,
through.
no, exactly. I had days that were frustrating. I had days where I was like, am I doing the right thing by my child? Am I doing the right thing? Because as much as it's not being in it. Because as I
Hmm.
said, I spoke to my child and she was up for it. So I knew in that sense, I got that bit right. It's when you're the outside noise.
Yeah,
There's
can
a lot of
imagine.
outside noise because it's not a thing enough. Well, they say it's not a thing in our community, but it is a thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you're in it, it's a thing. It's a big thing. But when you're outside of the thing, you don't think it's a big thing, or you don't think it's a thing. Like home medication is not what people perceive it to be.
Yeah, I can imagine that being your biggest challenge, because when you're the first to do anything, there's always that resistance. You tell people what you're doing, and they almost, because they wouldn't consider doing it. It's almost like they almost, I don't know if they mean to, but they almost try to put you off. Like, have you thought about this? Like, they start telling you about the things that can go wrong. It's like people are really, really scared of change.
Yeah, big time. Change is especially in the Black community. Oh no.
Don't mention the word change. Oh my gosh, we can do something different. Oh my God, who knew?
We can take it from this angle. Yes, you can. Like change is it's a big thing, and it's a big thing. But you either want the change so your child can be the individual that they intend to be, or they go down the path the system wants them to be.
Hmm.
And 9 out of 10 times, I feel like we failed when we allowed the system to dictate to us how to bring up our own child. I
Yes.
think we failed as parents. You can give your child everything, food, drink, everything in the world, but
You know.
if you're giving your child to the system and the system's doing what it's meant to do with your child,
Hmm.
to me, you failed as a parent.
I mean, the traveller community have been doing it for a long time with the girls. A lot of the girls, they might go to school, primary school, but a lot of them don't even go to secondary school. And the amount of discrimination and hate they get for that, but it's what works. It's what works. It's what works for you. I don't think you should be dictated to by society or by anyone to how you raise your children. I think
No, I don't.
your children will be looking to you in the future if they have all these issues and being like, Mum, what did you do for me? And you'll be able to sit down with your child and say, I did everything I could to make sure that you thrived. And I just hope that more parents are able to say that at the end of the journey, because You know, they're not children for very long, and we got to give them the best chance to be the adults that we want them to grow into. We leave
Exactly
them,
that.
we leave it to society. I don't necessarily know that we're going to have much control over that, because we've got to
But
deprogram our children and fill them with so much love that they never ever consider doing some of the wild things that you see some of these children out here doing on the streets.
and that's out of, but you see all the, again, it goes back to what we've been brought up. Like, for instance, perfect example, please do not come for me, Christian. Just an example. Christian, as a Christian, I was brought up in a Christian house because my granny went to church, my mum went to church, So there's nothing wrong with it. But if that's, I could have picked that up and ran with it,
Yep,
but that's me.
yep,
You understand? So I think as we need to change break our mindset, like, it's not working. These kids that are out here it's not working for the black kids.
yeah,
It's not working for us. And there's nothing wrong. We get up and we do corporate work and make other people rich. Why can't we take that time and invest it into what we've created?
yeah, and do
Why can't
something
we?
that you never thought about. Start a business. You know, you hear it like, oh no, I can't do it because I got to go to work. You don't. People have choices, and I think the sooner that they realize that they have these choices and make these changes, like the better their lives will be. Like I know your daughter, and she's absolutely thriving. She's absolutely thriving, and in comparison to some of the kids that I speak to that go to schools, she is a lot calmer and more articulate, and just loving life. In
Yeah,
the way that you don't usually see with kids that age. They're usually quite, you know, into their self, or they're overly obsessed with their phones, and I don't see any of that in her. And I think that's because she's a free thinker, because her mum is a free thinker. I'm also a free thinker. I don't like to be told that, you have to do things this way. I believe that there's more than one way to get to an outcome.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. That is fact. That is fact. But again, I've taken, you have parents just take time out to know your child, who your child is, not
Mhm.
who somebody tells you your child is. I think that's another problem. You give them to you give them to the school system, and the school tells you your child this, 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 this. A perfect example, when a very close friend of mine, so like, obviously her daughter's diagnosed, and she doesn't like the label.
Yeah,
Being don't like label,
yeah,
and I get it, and I respect it, and I don't take that away from her. But when in my when my child gets their diagnosis, and gets whatever diagnosis she gets, I'm not gonna treat you hate like that, because to me, you're just different, and it's okay to be different.
and there is that shame, isn't there? There's so much shame around anything. Like, for some people they don't need a diagnosis, but for some people it's really important so that they can just so that they can understand themselves.
Mhm.
That's all we're seeking to do, and I see a lot of that in the Black community. People don't want to go and get the diagnoses that they know that they require. You'll get more help or more support if you get a diagnosis. If you're not diagnosed, people are just going to be looking at your behavior as crazy. My ex is perfect example. You need to go and get yourself a diagnosis. And stop letting other people have to deal with your issues. You need to understand yourself more, and that often comes from going to get a diagnosis. But these little children not being given the help that they need because their parents are feeling some type of shame. Like, absolutely ridiculous.
And that's it. So when you're
Fix up.
feeling that pain, and that's to do with you, that's not even to do with the child.
That's
So when
all
you're
you.
feeling, is it about you or is it about your child? These are questions that people need to ask, because um my youngest child saw the pediatrician team at the school, and there was a couple of issues that they highlighted. And I was like, okay. They were like, oh, mum, you took it well. I just said, like, how do you want me to take it?
Mm,
Because I can only take, I'm glad that you lot found there's a problem.
mhm.
Now let's get this problem diagnosed and let's see how we deal with this problem.
Yeah,
It's not going to hinder her as her being her own self. It's just part of,
part of
I
who
can
she
make sure that she accepts it. It's part of her.
yeah, and
I
you were
can't,
so supportive of me when I got my diagnosis, because, like, obviously I got diagnosed with ADHD in April last year and as autistic in September last year. And I remember like trying to speak to a lot of my friends about it and them not really knowing what to say, but speaking to you a lot about it. And one of the first things you said to me was, "So what? You're a little bit neurospicy." Oh my gosh! Every time I think about it, I'm in stitches. I'm just like, yeah. Do you know what? Got a little bit of neurospice here. Like, do you know what I mean? I'll own that. You get me? Neurospicy. I like that one. You was like, Lee, does it change the person that you are? No. And that's kind of what you need to hear because I felt like an alien and people sometimes don't know what to say, but I think the way you deal with everything is quite positive. It's
But you know what it is? Because that's to do with my trauma. I remember I went through certain trauma deep because of the way
Yeah.
people dealt with things I went through as a child.
Yeah.
And I always said and made a promise that I will give my children that space for them to feel comfortable in whatever situation they're going.
Yep.
As long as I was always tell them, I will stand by you, but we'll through thick and thin, and I'll always have your back. But the only reason why it's me, if you kill somebody though, I'll beat you and take you to the police station, but apart from
Yeah.
that, do you? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
If I don't mind.
Yeah. And that's what we need. And I'm fortunate enough to know a little bit about your story. And it's like you could have taken what you've learned from, being a child and do what a lot of people do and just do the same thing. But you've always been very intentional and very conscious of not wanting the way certain aspects of your own parenting to impact the way you parent your children. And that's something that I've always found really, really remarkable about you. This is not, you're not needing anyone to tell you this. You're very aware that, you know, there's some things that you went through that potentially you didn't need to go through. And you're going to make sure, as much as you can, that your children get the best of everything. Like we said on the phone the other day, it's like, some people can't even tell their kids they love them or give them a hug, but you make sure that you're forever hugging and kissing your children. Like, to me, your children don't leave you alone. Like, I know if I knock on your door, like there's literally 3 children wrapped around you. And I'm just like, can I just have a minute with the mummy? Let her breathe, man. Let her breathe.
Well, it's so weird because me and my best friend, when we have similar conversation, and the other, like, we were baffled as we knew somebody that she has one child and her child was never around her. She's like, I'm not really funny. Your kids and my kids always like her kids are always around her. She's like, your kids are always around you. Why not? Like, I don't get it. I don't know because I've got girls and she's got boys. My best friend. She was like, okay, I can't explain what like boys always around me, but your girls are always around you. Why is it that some like her girls? It's me. Maybe she's not like that.
Yeah.
I've seen parents.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to step on her beat. So I've seen parents. I'm thinking you can handle that child a bit differently.
Yeah.
Your child's going to shut down. There's a reason why your child's doing what your child's doing.
Yeah. And those shut down children become shut down adults. It's not rocket science. This is where we learn how to behave. And we learn from our parents and and I know that sometimes children can be, quite stressful and maybe they get on your last nerve. But even in those moments there, you have to kind of speak love rather than give in to a lot of the anger. I know sometimes it's impossible when you lose your temper and you shout, but where you can, take a different approach because children will remember your voice will become their internal voice later on. So it's very important what you put into them. Hug them, kiss them, tell them you love them.
I feel like there's a lack of love in the Black community anyway. This is why the children are going through what they're doing. I feel like there's a lack of love. I feel like, you said it briefly in one of our conversations that people actually believe looking after a child is as simple as feeding them and putting them
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're raising a whole human being that's a sponge. That
Yeah.
has to yes, it's you have to teach that individual how to deal with emotion,
Mm-hmm.
how to cope with emotions. You have to teach him so much. It's not just like, here's your bed, your clothes. Right.
Think Frankenstein. We create the monsters. Frankenstein was never a monster. It was the way that society treated him for the way that he looked that, turned him into a monster. And I think, it's you hear it all the time. These people that go on and do horrendous things, they don't even know what love is, the concept of love. Like, why would I care about anybody else? Nobody cared about me. And it's like, in a way, I almost understand it. I think maybe that's why I'm so obsessed with like serial killer and true crime documentaries. I'm not saying that these people should have done what they've done, but some of them have gone through some really, really awful things. And I just think if you're going to go through the childbirth and go through all of this to have these children, start thinking about what you're going to do with them. You know, I've had people say to me in the past, like, yeah, I'll just have a child and I'll get a house. Those are not good enough reasons for having children. Like you say, you're raising whole human beings. And I think, like you say, a lot of the problems that we have, you know, especially in the Black community, it is that lack of warmth. And you can't just feed children and discipline them. You need to give them love as well. You need to enable them to understand that the things that you're doing for them is out of love. And if you can't say, I love you, and you can't hug your children and allow them to show their emotions, then you're going to mess them up.
Yes. Um, also, can we stop, like, we touched on, can we stop thinking that boys should not cry and
Yeah.
boys should do this
And little girls should be all things spice and nice. We have to get rid of those, don't we?
and those things need to go. They need to get rid of the Black community altogether because they're
Yeah.
hindering generation.
Yeah, it's why men in general, 75% of the suicides are men, because they are told, they're basically taught to bottle up their feelings. It's not manly to show emotions. And I think I've said it before, that is so harmful. 2025, if you're still telling your boys that, stop doing it. And stop telling your children to just be, your girl children to just be sweet and quiet in the corner. Because what you're doing is you're taking the personality out of them, and you're trying to make them conform to something that they probably never gonna be. And yeah, the conversations that we have are epic, mate.
It's about them confirming, yeah. Let me, you can, I see it as well. You want, like, you suppress who they are at a younger age. You give them to the government. You put them in school, and then when they meet other kids and be like, "Oh, I can," you get mad.
Yeah.
No, mate. No.
Yeah.
If you've done what was needed, by the time what was needed to be done, whatever happens in the older age will be a shock to them. Be a thing to them.
I mean, you're taught to be compliant as young girls. You should be compliant. But then when you get to be a woman, people want you to be assertive and stand up for yourself. But how do you do that when you've only been taught to be compliant? You see what I'm saying? I let kids to a large degree do what they want. As long as they're not hurting themselves or breaking too many of my things, I let them express themselves. You know, when they're saying, kids are supposed to make noise. Kids are noisy. Tip, tip, tip. Kids are noisy. They make noise. They make noise. They make loads of noise. And they don't stop. And they repeat themselves. And they will annoy you if you don't have the patience to deal with them. But, don't take their little characters out of them, man.
But I think they do. I think it's not even even if it's not done in the home. I feel like when they get to primary school, not even so much primary school, some primary school teachers are decent.
Yeah.
Actually, they like working with the younger lot. But you see, I'll take away primary school for a minute. When it gets to secondary school, I feel like even if your child's got a bubbly personality and that teacher can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But they try and make your child become patient.
Yeah.
Put the person, like, try and make her be I shape your child different to what your child is.
Yeah.
And that's confusing. The child's already going through hormonal change. The child's got through what's it called? What do you call them? Adolescent changes.
Yeah.
So what? And then you've got this person that's saying you can't be yourself. You haven't.
No, I was a reasonably good child, but the times I did get in trouble, I got in trouble for talking. But the funny thing was, I used to talk and I used to also finish my work. So my work was finished, I was talking, and I'd always get in trouble for talking. And then I would always say, but I'm not talking to myself, like I'm talking to someone else, because I noticed that I used to be the one that got in trouble. But now I'm more aware of myself and how ADHD shows up. I must have been an absolute nightmare, but not even picking up that this girl can't stop talking. I never shut up. And how that was never picked up, I don't know.
You was talking because whatever was going on in your environment was boring for you.
It wasn't challenging. And that's what I often found at school, that the work that they used to do, and then they figured that out. And so they used to take me away and give me something more challenging, because they would like, you shouldn't even be talking until you've done your work. And me being the smart ass that I am, I'll be like, well, I've finished the work. Do you know what I'm saying? I've done the work and now I'm chatting because I ain't got nothing to do. Give me something to do, innit? So, like you say, in primary school, I think you do get a lot more of those teachers that take the time to get to know your child. I think it's
Mhm.
when you get into the big world of like secondary schools, it's almost just like you just become anonymous.
Yeah,
I think
but
these primary school teachers they do a very good job. I think you get a lot of your education in primary school. I think most of the things I learned in school in general, I learned at primary school.
because I believe the format of a primary school, like, because my daughter goes to a one class entry primary, so it's very small. Everybody knows everybody. So I like it like that because she gets the attention that she needs.
Mhm.
And I reckon if she was in school, a larger primary school, she probably would have gone undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they never would have picked up on
Yeah.
what she needed.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to. They've got too many children. If you've got like 30 kids in the class, how are you supposed to notice anything? You know?
So
So
I'm great for that. I'm great for small spaces. I just realized in my family, in my household, my kids thrive better when it's just one to one
yeah,
than by themselves learning
yeah,
on their
because they're not being overstimulated, you know?
No, they're not. But my daughter, funny enough, comes home, the middle one, that's in school, comes home and tells me that she's bored. And she's bored because simply there is a spice to you.
Yeah.
She thinks different. So the way they're trying to teach her is not working with her thought
Yeah.
process, not connecting. So she's getting bored and getting frustrated with herself, coming home saying she don't want to go to school, don't want to do this. And it's not, I've asked her, I thought, and when she first started saying that, I thought somebody was like picking on her. She
Yeah.
said, no, she said she don't like literacy and she don't like math.
Yeah. I hated
Uh,
maths. It's good.
and I don't think, and I believe it's not even because her older sister really like math. When she sits down with her and does the math, she's good.
Yeah.
When she's like, however they're teaching out at school, it's not working. Right? Just
Yeah.
her brain cell is just not comprehending the situation.
Yeah, it's probably too much
So
background noise, do you know what I mean? Too
mm,
much things going on, too much ways to get distracted. And the way the teachers teach is just one way. I used to always say
yeah,
all the time that I don't understand. So there was times where I actually thought I was stupid because I used to say I don't understand. And even now, as an adult learning, I don't understand what you mean that way. And then I'd have to go away and learn a different way, or someone would tell me a different way, and then it would make sense. But going to the teacher and saying, I don't understand, and then we're just being like, well, I don't really know what to tell you. And
I
how
don't know.
many
I don't
children
know
does that
what.
happen to?
This
You
is the
know, they
problem.
don't
I
understand because of the way you're teaching them.
You've got 30 kids. Out of that 30 kids, you're teaching one way. I doubt it out of that 30 kids, 5 of them are going to understand the way you're teaching. I
Yeah.
doubt it very likely. As much as they're children at all the same age, they're still individuals.
I don't think if anyone listens to this, I don't think they're going to send their kids to school at all. I think it was. Look at it. And then first thing Monday, everyone just takes their children out of school. And I've got a teacher auntie and a teacher friend, so I do apologise. I know that there are some good teachers
No, no.
within the system that are
They're
making
great
a
people.
difference as much as they can.
Yes, they are. They are a great. Like my children's godmother, she's a teacher. She's been working hello, like 15 years. She's been working with kids. Like even with her, I even consulted her because she's in the school system and she works in secondary. So me and her had a conversation before I even took my daughter at my oldest school. We had a conversation. I said to her, "What is actually going on?" So, fun fact, just quick fun fact. My kid in secondary school, she said she sees it as herself. Kids are not being heard. They're not being listened to. Kids are vaping. They are they are cutting. Like the mental health is serious, as in they're cutting their wrist. They're doing the most, and yeah, a lot is going on. I said, you know what? Because my child's brain is so delicate, I don't want you to go into that environment.
Yeah. That's just witnessing trauma. That alone, just
Yeah.
hearing about it. And that has connotations because especially with girls that self-harm, it
Mhm.
tends to be that they tell their friends and their friends also self-harm. It's one of those things that kind of spreads self-harm. You tend to find it in a lot of friendship groups, amongst siblings. It is one of those things that can actually go from one child to another. So in so many ways, I'm glad that your child is where she is. But I think about all of the many children that are being subject to trauma, and it's affecting their mental health just to get an education.
Big time, big time. Like it, it, it's the statistics and the way she comes, like the information that she provides to me. It's 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 heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. You've got, because the kids are in the toilet vaping, you are now, as a school, have decided to close, the school are now closing toilets on children.
And it's making teachers have to do other things that they're not trained to do, like be referees and to be disciplining and doing stuff. Their job is to teach, and we also spoke about the fact that some people that are teachers don't want to be teachers.
They're
It
not.
used to be that, teaching was something that people went into and they had a passion for. I don't think teaching can't be a job. It's not something that you can be like, right, I'm going to be a teacher. If you don't like children, you have these unconscious biases, you shouldn't be a teacher. So I know that it says that those that can teach, those that can't teach sometimes, those that can't do something else, they often go and teach. And we've got to look at the individuals that we're putting in front of our children, because I would say that some of them probably have unconscious biases and some of their biases are quite open. Even at school, when I was going to school, we knew the teachers that were racist. We knew,
Mhm.
we knew. I mean, they weren't calling us little black anythings, but we knew from the way they were treating us that they didn't particularly like black people. And like you say, a lot of them were coming from far out. You're working in an inner city school in the ghetto, and you live, when you look out the window, you see cows and sheep. Like, we're not the same.
We're not.
We're not the same.
We're not at all. And it a lot of teachers, these modern teachers, like you say, when we were growing up, I felt like we had teachers that loved to teach, that wanted to teach us, that
Mm.
wanted to educate us, that was happy to let children, that actually like children. That's
Yeah.
the basic. That actually likes
Yeah.
children. Fast forward to now, half these individuals that are teachers, not all of them, please hear me when I say this. They are there are still people out here that genuinely want to teach and genuinely want to help children learn.
Yeah. And
They,
they
they
make a
are
difference. Yeah, they do.
make a big difference. But then there's also the other hand that went to uni, got qualification, whatever they got qualification in, because they can't go to their field for whatever reason, decide to go to that particular group there, the group
Yeah.
that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
Because if it's not your passion, why are you in it?
Yeah, and I truly think that it's just like being a nurse or a doctor. It's not something that you
Mhm.
can do for a paycheck. I mean,
No.
you can work in a betting shop. We both have, babes.
Okay.
That's the kind of job you do to make money. Do you understand?
Okay.
And you don't have to give a shit. No one cares
No,
if you
you
give a
don't.
shit.
And you know,
No one gives a shit in there. But there's
no,
certain jobs that it has to be a vocation. It can't be a job to you.
no.
I see a lot of it in therapy. Like, there's a lot of therapists that genuinely don't care about mental health or people. And I'm just like, how have you ended up here? So it's like people do things sometimes for the money or and it shouldn't be the case. These are the kind of people we should be trying to get rid of in every profession.
Literally,
You're in there for the wrong reasons. But we have been cussing out this education system for a bit. So I'm going to kind of pull it to a close soon. But have you got any lasting thoughts on anything that we've been speaking about today?
I just want the Black community to actually wake up and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to our kids.
Yep.
Yeah. Our kids are angry.
Yep.
They are confused. They don't feel loved. They don't feel that they've been heard. They don't even feel like they've been seen sometimes.
Yeah.
And nobody, no other race can give that to our children apart from ourselves.
Yeah.
Wake up. We're no longer a community. We're not even a
Yeah.
community.
That is so. Come on, man. Say that again. We are no longer a community.
We are not a community, because community means back in the day, Leanna will see my child on the road and tell my child, get
Yeah.
home. And I told her how to get home.
Yeah.
I can do that regardless to me,
Yeah.
because I'm her friend. Kids know her like that. But somebody else will say, "What are you talking to my child like?"
That's what you get now. This whole it takes a village when there is no village. The village is not there, babes, and this is the problem.
Yeah.
So we can blame social media, we can blame the education system, but really and truly, we've got to take back control of our community. And the first step we need to do is rebuild our community, because, like you say, we don't have one, and I think that's where we fall short. You see other communities,
Mhm.
they do it for themselves, they support their own, and we just don't do it. We could have spoke about gatekeeping and how us as Black people, we haven't really got to the levels. where we should be stopping each other's progress, but we still try to do that. Other communities, the Southeast Asian community or the South Asian community, if they have people in their cultures that are doing things, they support them. We shouldn't even have to say black business. It should just be a given that we support each other. But I find that it's not. My journey on this podcast, I feel like the black community on a whole, because I've got supporters within it, I'll probably be the least slow to pick this up. The people that DM me and encourage me and support me, a lot of them are not from my community. And I can't fail to ignore that, especially when I'm doing this for my community, all the communities that I represent. So that's being a black, a woman, LGBT, whatever it is. I'm here for all my communities, So obviously, guys, I've been saying this for a while. You've seen it on TikTok. This is going to be my last podcast in this current format. I mean, when I started this journey, I couldn't have hoped it to reach where it has now. I literally just went to Curry's and bought a mic and the headphones, had an idea of a podcast, and started recording the same day. That's my impulsiveness. I never understood how much work it took. I never knew how much it kind of was gonna mess with my brain. I'm very passionate about what I do. I think in some instances, what I've seen as a lack of support, I've now kind of changed my perception. Speaking to this lovely, positive person, I can say that a lot of people haven't supported me, but I'd rather focus on the people that have, because there have been very many people that have supported me, and I will still be around. I think I'm gonna go more over to TikTok. I find a lot of more engagement there. I want to connect more with younger people because that's kind of where I want my career to progress. I think doing this now for a few years, I've started to see where the barriers are. The barriers tend to be with people my age and above. And I say, if you guys don't want to change, it's fine, because you ain't got that long left. You don't need to change. But I'm going to focus on the young people because, I'm not a parent, but I will be out here reparenting other people's children in therapy if need be, because the children are the future. And the way how it's going now, there will be no future. These little people now are going to be the people, the politicians, that everything of the future. We've got to train them up right. So I think,
Yeah. Just on that note, you see when you said that these little people are very good in addition to people. Look, they are, but the way we're going, are we going to have any people?
I don't think we're going to have any babes.
They're killing each other. They're literally boys and girls. You don't hear about the girls, but it's getting done.
But it's a reflection. They're killing the mirror image of their self. They don't like their self. And this is what I try to say to people. If you don't condition and put all of this love into your children, then they don't stand a chance, because society is always trying to undo what you're doing. So you've always got to be doing more, so that when your child hits the road or hits that society and people are trying to, dehumanize and make them feel like they can go out there and kill people, those won't be your children. But I think it's a lot of self-hate. And I could speak about this subject all day, because I think knife crime is another thing that us as a community, we speak about a lot. We know what the problems are. We're just going to keep speaking about the problems. And when another child dies, we're going to speak about the same problems again. We need to look at the solutions. And the solutions involve change. We got to do something. And that's where it stops. Whenever we got to do any work, it just stops.
I just think it's sad to know that, for instance, my older daughter's in her teens. It's sad to know by the time she becomes a full-grown adult, not this 18-year-old that they say you're adult 18, when her brain is fully functional, 21 and 25. By the time she gets to 21, a majority, it's so sad. The generation before her, 2 generations before her and her generation, there might not be even enough kids, enough to make we've lost the whole population. Yes. And I don't think people comprehend what it is that we're losing that generation. Because all these kids that are dying, 13, 14, 15, in a year, you've got, say for instance, this is not statistic, this is not gospel, but say in a year you get 15, 13-year-olds dead. They've never had a chance to, that's a bloodline cut off.
Yeah.
That's a whole, that's it. You're not getting that again.
And also you talk about, if there's 15 young people that are killed, please believe that that probably means that there's 1,500 people, young people, that are affected, because people forget that all of these young people that are dying, they have friends. They're not solo people walking around here. They have friends. And, we didn't have to grow up with our friends being murdered. Obviously I lost my dad to murder, and it's murder something that you never get over. You can move your life, you can do all the trauma therapy you want, but someone coming into your life and feeling that they have the right to take away your loved one, you don't get over that. And all of these kids have friends. So all of these and that's what I see when I see these youths. I think they started off being in pain, they started off being traumatized, and now they don't give a fuck. And they don't give a fuck because nobody gives a fuck about them. And to me, this is what the problem is. So we can talk about knife crime, we can talk about this and that, but unless we're doing the right things behind the scenes, the same things are going to happen, guys. So I've been grateful. I mean, I could speak about this topic all day, but I'm just want to just be grateful. This podcast journey, I'm now a lot more confident as a public speaker, so I can go out there and do things. But I genuinely want to thank everyone that, from the beginning, when it was my sis Marie over there in Derby that used to ring me up every week to try to make sure I was staying on top of my content, to all my many friends that came on. I'm not going to name everyone because what will happen is I'll miss somebody out and that person will be upset with me. So I'm going to say thank you to all the guests that came on. I'm not just interested in Kelechi or Mary, these people that are in the public eye. The most important people to me are ordinary people. It's their stories that inspire me every day to be a therapist and to try to help. It's not celebrities that I'm inspired by. So having all of these wonderful people, having 122 subscribers on YouTube, me not realizing that YouTube is as dead as Facebook now. It's where us middle-aged people go to die. So maybe not even setting it up in the right format in the first place. Because I've, in the last week, I've been downloading some of them to TikTok and the response has been different. So me starting a podcast, not really knowing what to do, but just wanting to get a message out there and be heard. Mental health is health and it's important. I hope now someone else comes along, and the next time someone comes along with earphones and a mic and they're talking about mental health, that you give them the time of day, you support them. If you have friends that are trying to do things and trying to get them, support them. Even if you don't resonate with what they're saying, share their content. Because a lot of these things hurt me as an individual, seeing a lot of the people that I would have said would support me, not supporting me. And then still wanting to talk to me and interact with me like nothing's happened. Like, no, babes, we're not friends. You can pay for my time if you want to talk to me. We're not friends. You've been one of my biggest supporters. You spoke to me a lot when I was down. If it wasn't for you, this podcast probably would have stopped months ago, if I'm being honest with you. But I just want to say that I've got so much out of it. And I hope that the people that have followed, you got something out of it too. We're a long way from where we started. I think it kind of got better as it went along, but, people's time is not infinite. I believe in growth. So if I'm doing anything that I give my time and my passion to, I want to see results. I want to see it grow. I want to know that people are listening and understanding. And I think for me, the motivation just went down. It became less of a passion and more of a chore. And I didn't want that. I don't want to be doing something half-heartedly. So I'm going to leave it there for now. And that's what I decided to do. But like I said, I will still be around. I've still got the earphones and the mic. So if anyone needs me to jump on their pod, I'm always available. I have some things planned for the future. I'm not going to say too much because I'm learning not to speak about things before they happen, but just know that there's some things coming. I don't want to give anyone the chance to kibosh anything before it happens. But I want to thank all the people that have supported this podcast, and we will meet again. So I hope this last one will help some of you parents. P, say goodbye. Any last words you want to say to the world here?
Listen, beautiful world. The black. Love each other. Show each other a bit more love and be compassionate. You never know what somebody's going. That's all I've got to say. Be a bit more compassionate.
Yeah.
And just love on each other. Because what the world needs now is actually love.
Yeah.
Everything else, love.
You can't drive out hate with hate. Only love can do that. And this is what I'm realizing now. I've seen a lot of angry people and a lot of hate, but it's just a lack of love in these people's hearts. And the world does need more of love, and we need to start meeting people where they are, not trying to judge people.
And okay to leave them where they are too.
Yeah. Meet them where they are and leave them where they are. It's true. Meeting them where they are don't mean you have to stay there. Sometimes you have to leave them where they are too. This is why I can't. The wheels have come off, mate. The neuro spice on the show is just ridiculous, isn't it? But you know, black girl magic. This is what we do. We're out here. We're out here shining. So don't just think the discrimination has just killed our spirit. We're out here still smiling and shining. You know, what other people would be doing that? The amount of things we've gone through, and we can still smile, babes. And I'm so grateful for today, because I think a conversation when we was speaking about homeschooling would have helped a lot of people. And I think some of the things that we've just come up with, we're just literally just speaking, I hope it gives some people food for thought. You know, we need to change as a community. We need to change as a community. Like you said, we need to firstly rebuild that community. And I think that's the first step. Stop going back to what we used to have. We don't have that anymore. We need to rebuild a semblance of a new community, because, you know, the community that we had is gone. And the good thing is, if we're building a new community, we can build it how we want it to be and how we need it to be. So, you know, change starts with you, the man in the mirror. But yeah, I'm rambling now. So I'm literally going to go get off. And, you know, I'm really happy to have had this experience, and I hope you guys enjoyed it with me. So you may not see me on the Alphabet podcast, but you will see me, guys. Thanks to my guest. Love you all. Oh, come on.
De-stress body on Instagram. Okay?
Yes. Guys, remember that de-stress body on Insta. I will put it in the comments, so you don't have to try to remember. I'll put that in the comments, and I will say, everybody add her. She's an amazing person, full of love. She just personifies love to me. She's such a loving soul, and she's like that for everybody. From the day I've met her till now, she's always been positive.
I'll say one thing. Sorry, this is Diana's last podcast. Can I just say, August 2025, De-Stress Body will be presenting the Sister Circle. Save the date, and more information coming your way. This is an event that you do not want to miss. We are coming in everything self-care. We're going to teach you from the basic up. We're going to give you everything you need so you can look after you, and then you're able to pour into everybody else. So stay tuned. That is in August 2025, De-Stress Body Sister Step.
And it's all about self-care. That's something we can agree on. For the both of us, self-care is, you know, the pinnacle. This is what we need to be. You know, no one's going to look after you more than you look after yourself. So start doing that for yourself. People often forget about self-care. Make sure you go and add Fee. She's there on Insta. I will definitely put it in the comments. But add her. She does so many amazing things. Like I couldn't find it in the end. I bet you I'll get off the chair and then I'll find you what I wanted to show you. But, you know, she's an amazing person, an amazing human being. And I couldn't think of anyone better to share my final podcast with. So,
well, thank you, Leanna. This is absolutely blessed. My first official podcast, looking at somebody decent.
I'll just thank you, babes. Like we've had a few technical problems. In case you can see, the weather outside is not too great, so it's impacting the Wi-Fi. But we got to do what we can do with what we can do. So, you know, where you can't see picture, hopefully you'll see sound. So remember it's a podcast, so essentially you should just be listening anyway. So all the pictures you get are just bonuses. So I'll do the best I can in the editing, but anyone that's thinking it's just short periods and it shouldn't disrupt the overall quality of the podcast. So with that said, guys, you know, take care of yourselves, and, you know, just be kind to each other. We need a lot more kindness and a lot more love. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me on the Alphabet podcast.